Welcome to the InfoMullet YouTube channel. If you enjoy this content, please like or share. And if you'd like to support the InfoMullet by becoming a mulleteer, visit us on Patreon. We appreciate your support.
What are the main components of these models? So if we're thinking about the systems thinking concepts that upon which such models are built, such simulation models are built, is the concept of stocks and flows and feedback loops. And we'll start with the first one, which is the stock and flow. So the stocks and flows, as I introduced earlier, is this box is the stock, the inflow is this pipe that you see coming in, and the outflow, which is draining this, is coming out. And I will use what we call is the bathtub analogy, which is, and let me bring back the case of COVID, the COVID model that we have seen. The inflow of that you see, the tap water, this is the inflow of cases. This is the infection rate coming in and filling in the stock, and the stock will be the infectious population in this case. And the outflow that we see here, represented by the drain from the bathtub, this is the people recovering or dying. So that's why we see that.
So from a COVID standpoint, how you would relate this to the charts? You know, so total infected at any point in time, that would be a stock. That's the level of water in the bathtub.
Yes, exactly.
And this daily new cases, daily death rates, daily recoveries, those are all inflows or outflows, either adding to the bathtub or taking it away.
Exactly. So that would be the daily cases is the inflow, and the daily recovery or daily death will be the outflow. And the level is the number of cases.
I've read somewhere in some places that the stock or this level represents kind of a memory of a system. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. So it's a memory because it is the way the position it reached, or that level, is basically from actions that preceded that. And it's not also easy either to bring it down, because there need to be action that help removes that. So it's not something that changes instantaneously, and it is something that is a result or an outcome of actions that took place at a certain period of time that precedes the level.
So kind of like when I put the Germany and US charts up, the Germany chart of, say, deaths per capita, that's a memory of all the policy actions that Germany did or did not take, just like the US is a memory of all the actions that the US did or didn't take going back to January. So it's almost like a record you know, and it's not exactly clear what those actions were. You can't tell them from seeing it, but in some ways it's kind of like the current level of cases we have now is a reflection of everything we've done or not done since January. Would that be fair?
Yes, definitely.
Interesting, fascinating. So that makes the level a really powerful comparison tool, because it encapsulates all these different things at a sort of a simple level. Now we've got a question here from, I'm going to get this name wrong, but Peru Peridir. If we want to go through different age groups and susceptible, should we define different stocks and different infection rates that are all connected to the infected stock, or is it better to define a function within the susceptible stock variable? I think what he's asking is a disaggregation. If we have different age cohorts, or we want to segment these compartments, would we represent them as different stocks, or we'd have one function like a curve in the one stock to represent that?
So in this methodology, it's easy to just create like a subscript or a matrix. So it's the same stock that we can see, but imagine that this is age 90 plus, and there is behind it another box that says from age 80 to 85. So they go through the same piping, if you will, but they have separate tanks.
Got it. Great answer.
Go through. So it can be simply presented. It doesn't need to be very sophisticated.
Please continue.
So just to explain the dynamic phenomena, we don't want to get just the COVID thing in and out, but if the inflow or the flow of the number of cases is the same as the number of deaths, then we typically have nothing is changing. The stock level will just remain constant. And this is what you see sometimes in the charts, that you see it leveling at some point. This is that, like, daily cases is equal to the daily removed. So you won't see that many changes. I mean, one thing I need to also to make clear, when we talk about data, we have to know that when the data is measured is different from when the data is reported. So that's why we have to use some of these analogies by being cautious, because it also depends on how fast the data is collected, how accurate, and how fast the data is reported.
Good point. A great caveat.
And when the inflow is greater than the outflow, that means the number of cases is still coming up, but the death or recovery is still is less. Mm-hmm. This is when we see the growth pattern happening. And as we mentioned, that it takes time for recovery or for death. Nothing is happening instantaneously, even if there are some. And when the inflow is less than the outflow, I think you guessed it, this is when we see a decline. So these are the two actions that is happening and responsible for the increase or decrease of those curves. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there is a math behind that, which is the integral equations, or what Tim has mentioned, this memory. So the level of the stock of number of cases is depending on the number of cases before, plus the number of new cases minus the cases that recovered or died, multiplied by the unit of time, and then depends whether you're using a day or a week or whatever.
So a sort of a simple way of saying that is the total cases of current infected at any point in time equals the cases from yesterday plus new cases minus recovered cases, correct?
Exactly.
So this is calculus. This isn't statistics. This is built on calculus, correct?
Exactly.
Great. I've got a question here from Lucas. I want to hold it so we can, I think we'll get into when we jump a little bit more into the model, we can ask that one. Please continue.
Okay, so this some examples of stocks and flows, because we don't want to keep stocks and flows only for COVID. For example, in the physical systems, if we talk about the water in the ocean, that's a stock. We know it's like 70% of the earth is water in oceans, etc. And it evaporates to become water in the clouds, and then it condenses, and then it precipitates, and it comes back as a rain. So this is a physical phenomena that stocks and flows represent. Another thing that could be represented by stocks and flows is, for example, body weight. We gain weight through...
That's my favorite one. I love that one there.
I mean, it reminds me of so many things about myself. So gaining weight and losing weight. And we know that if the rate of gaining weight is faster than the rate of losing weight, then what we're gonna have is end up having.
So I think, I mean, I think this is a really good example here, because everyone can kind of relate to the struggles of, it's easier to gain weight and put yourself on the wrong track of body weight. And just because on the day after New Year's, you decide, I'm gonna go about and lose weight, it takes time, and this is that memory function. Your current body weight is a reflection of all the choices you've made in the recent and not so recent past, the habits, the exercise, things like that. You can't just turn that on a dime and have it, lose 20 pounds, if only that were the case. But I think this is really important. We talk about almost like inertia. When our own pandemic response in COVID, even though it's not going to just turn on a dime and think people like, well, we'll be fine. We'll just, if things get serious, we'll just do it. It takes a lot of inertia to change your momentum that you're already heading in. And anyone who's tried to lose weight after gaining it knows it's much harder to lose the weight than it is to gain it. And I think this gets to Lucas's point about early interventions being much more effective to avoid gaining the weight or getting the COVID case in the first place. Sorry, I interrupted you. What's going on with anger? What's happening there?
Good that you caught me before I get angry. So anger also works the same way. We have things that makes you angry, so they build up anger, and also things that makes you less angry, which is like venting. This is one of the coping mechanisms. So to prevent anger, I mean, to intervene with anger, it's not only by venting. We can also control the way we perceive things, the way we react to things, so we can intervene. So this is one of the beauty of showing the flows, because flows is where you can intervene. With stocks, you can't touch them on their own. It's either I take myself away from things that makes me angry, or if I get anger because this is something uncontrollable that's happened to me suddenly, then I know the coping mechanisms that helps me reduce my anger. And the time to, if somebody has, when they call anger issues, this means they get triggered quickly. So the time to build anger is much shorter than the time to vent. So they remain angry for a longer period of time. So despite whether we can control this or not, but this shows us that we can do something about anger. If that shows what the power of the flows and stocks is.
Thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to follow the InfoMullet, visit us on Facebook or Twitter. And if you'd like notifications when we post new video content, click on the red subscribe button below the video. If you've ever wanted to become a mulleteer and support the InfoMullet, visit us on Patreon. We appreciate the support.